Welcome to digital content creation. So I'm really excited about this lesson because to me it's really fun. I get to talk about a lot of the cool tools that I like to use. I create digital content all the time. And if we're not creating it all the time, we are using someone else's digital content. We're sharing images, we're sharing memes and GIFs and videos, scrolling through TikTok, whatever. We're surrounded by digital content, and we're the creators of some of that content too. So before I jump into the slides, I want to have you consider for a moment one of your favorite pieces of digital content. Maybe it's a meme, maybe it's a YouTube video, or maybe it's one of your favorite articles that you read online. So for me, I thought I would share a fun video. So this is from a Netflix series, BoJack Horseman, and I always love this clip right here. Particularly because I used to be a runner and I really need to get back into it. But man, it is hard once you're getting started.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I'm going to talk over the music a little bit so I don't get
It gets easier.
struck.
Huh?
Every day it gets a little easier.
Yeah?
But you gotta do it every day. That's the hard part. But it does get easier.
Okay.
Well, we'll see if I get copyright struck or not for that. I might have to mess with the audio later. But I really always loved that little scene. It stuck with me because I love that quote. It gets easier, but you have to do it every day. It's very true for a lot of things. So let's move into this topic. So I wanted to start by showing you just some of the types of digital content creation skills that are used in different industries. So marketing and advertising and journalism and media, you can see are very heavy users of digital content. They have to create it all, right? Videos, video journalism, photo journalism, data journalism. They do live streams. They do storytelling. They write long-form articles. Marketing and advertising people, they have to use all the fancy graphic design tools. They have to do search engine optimization, email marketing. They might even be creating content for augmented and virtual reality. You think about Mark Zuckerberg and all the hype around the metaverse. Well, who do you think has to create content for that? Marketing and advertising. And then we have e-commerce and education and e-learning. So yeah, I create a lot of digital content. I'm sitting here right now. It's past midnight, and I started my day creating digital content, and I have entered the next day still creating digital content. So that's making PowerPoints, making videos. Right now I'm making a video based on my PowerPoint. That's making even that little, you see that little overlay ETSU icon, Professor Ryan Haas over my webcam. That's something I created. That's an image I created in an image editing tool. So lots of digital content being created all the time. And the list continues. You name an industry, some digital content creation need probably exists in that industry. So let's talk about the building blocks. So we can divide digital content into three basic components: text, images, and video. I mean, think about everything you look at and consume. It's some amalgamation of one, two, or all three of these things, right? So the importance of enriching a story is so you can help people who, well, have frankly short attention spans. You think about how much information you're exposed to every single day, all the TikTok videos, all the emails your professors send, all those lengthy D2L posts, and all the content they're giving you in the notes. So it's important to make text searchable and scannable and to supplement it to make it compelling. And it's also important to try to use some sort of narrative elements. And that's where videos are really helpful in creating narratives and holding people's attention. Because with a presentation, people can only sustain their focus for 10 minutes if you're lucky. If their glucose levels are a little bit low, you might not even get 10 minutes out of them. Susan Weinschenk is a user experience person, and she's written and done talks about this stuff. And it's just so important that, you try to make compelling story format content. Now, for me, as someone who has to make lectures, that's really challenging, knowing that, hey, 7 to 10 minutes, that means that I need to have some kind of break every 7 to 10 minutes. I can do things like change up the layouts in my slides, switch from slides to something else. But it is really, really challenging to do that. So let's talk about digital content creation tools. So first, the text-based tools. You're probably familiar with some, if not many, or maybe even all of these tools. Microsoft Word is one we've already used. Google Docs. And then for note-taking, we have Google's Keep. We have Microsoft's OneNote. And there's Evernote, which is something that I was using been using it since middle school, and then I kind of stopped. But that was a really good one. Not a whole lot different from Keep, I guess, but I actually liked it a little bit better. And then we have writing and grammar tools like Grammarly. Grammarly's a neat application that you can actually install a free version on your desktop, and you can give it permission to run on other apps that you're using, like Microsoft Word, like your web browser. Heck, I even remember it asking me if I wanted it to run in Discord, which I did not. And then Hemingway Editor is really cool. I should have put a link to it, but it actually highlights, you will type text in it like you're writing a Word document or something, and it will highlight sentences and phrases and things, and its highlight colors correspond to what it's trying to help with. Maybe conciseness, maybe bad grammar, is a really cool one. So image tools, GIMP or GNU Image Manipulation Program. It's a clunky name. It's not a bad piece of software, and it's completely free. And on all the lab computers here at ETSU, it's pre-installed. And that's the tool I use to create this image overlay that appears around my web camera. And then there's Adobe Illustrator and Lightroom. So most Adobe products are paid. The Adobe suite is not a free thing, but Adobe does offer some free things. And then there's Canva. So Canva is a powerful online design platform that lets you, create a variety of things with text and images. And maybe if you're in a club or some kind of organization, you use Canva to design posters. I used to use it when I did hall council. We would make posters for events, and they made it very easy because they let you import stock images from a nice collection, and they just make it really, really easy. Drag and drop text, You can even create infographics, and it's not that hard with their templates. And they even allow they have some online video editing now, I believe. Some video tools. So on the high end, really like production level, you have things like Adobe Premiere Pro and Apple Final Cut Pro, and many others. I just don't remember them. Like, there are so many tools in all of these realms. But there are free options. So some OS native editors are Microsoft's Clipchamp, and then Apple will come with iMovie. So here are the free things. And this is not a comprehensive list, just a few I'm throwing out there. So Grammarly, I said it does have a free tier. If you have a Mac, it comes with Pages on it. LibreOffice Writer is part of an open suite, so there are open office alternatives like LibreOffice, Apache OpenOffice. I think there's one called WPS Office. None of them I like as much as Microsoft Office. They're lacking features here and there, but there are a lot of alternatives. And there's Google Docs, of course, and that's an online medium. And for a lot of general use cases, it's a really, really good choice. I have enjoyed using it for collaborating on essays. Even when I was in high school, taking Comp 2 as a dual enrollment student, one of the things I had to do several times was co-author papers with someone. And he had a very busy schedule, as did I. So we didn't get to sync up in person. So we were co-authoring over Google Docs because of that live editing capability, and it worked really well. And we could leave each other comments, and our professor said, "Hey, that's a great way of doing things. I wonder why more of my students aren't using this." And then image tools. So we have Canva, has a free tier. You can do a lot with it. And then there's an online image editor called Pixlr, which I haven't used it personally. I just heard about it. And then there's the tool I was talking about, GIMP. And some free video tools. So the one that I use, the one I'll be using right after I press the stop button in OBS Studio to stop recording, is Shotcut. And it's available on Windows and Linux. I have to check. I don't think it's available on Mac, but no, it's on Windows and Linux. And they have like the ugliest icon in the world. It looks like it wouldn't be a very useful piece of software, but it's really good for my use cases. I'm not a professional video editor, but I'm sort of a jack of all trades, master of none type, or at least I aspire to be. So I find it really helpful. You can do basic things like fade in video and audio, fade out. You can insert text and captions. You can do all kinds of filtering effects on your video and audio. Like, something I do with audio a lot is I have to do what's called normalization. So you might have certain really loud peaks in the audio that if you leave it in, especially if someone's wearing headphones, they're going to be jarring. And so I can normalize that audio to make sure I flatten those peaks. And then I can do things like sometimes I have to add gain to make the audio a little bit louder, and all kinds of different things. It's a track-based editor, so that means you can drag and drop different videos onto the track, merge the different clips together, cut them up, change the order, cut out parts that don't belong, and all that good stuff. And then there's Apple's iMovie for Mac. OpenShot's another free one that I think is available on like everything. It's probably not that much different than the one I'm using, Shotcut. I just prefer Shotcut's interface a little bit better. And apparently Canva now has a video editor. I haven't used it, but that's really neat. And then there's DaVinci Resolve, which is apparently a really nice piece of software. And they have several ones that are paid, but just the Resolve one is free version. And so, yeah. And then there's one Dr. Dubé loves on Mac called Camtasia. And based on her last video recording, it seems like it's pretty cool. So, some content creation strategy and best practices. So number one, design for your target audience. This requires you to understand that audience. So here are some examples. If you know your audience is primarily men, the symmetry of your content is even more important than it is if your content is female. Or if, not your content. What is female content? If your audience is female. And this comes from Susan Weinschenk again. I really enjoy her books. And these links go out to O'Reilly Media. That's something you can access as an ETSU student by signing in with your ETSU credentials through our single sign-on. So you can check that out if you want. But yeah, symmetry is going to matter even more. You want to show men like all symmetrical views of the products, whereas women, definitely when you're showing human faces, bodies, symmetry is important. It's just a weird quirk about humans. We love symmetry. Symmetry is attractive to us. It looks right. But for women, it's not as important that necessarily the page layout looks symmetrical or that the way that the product is displayed is symmetrical. So just little differences here and there. So that goes to knowing your audience. Some more about designing for your target audience. Think about how you would use text for that audience. So if I'm designing for young children, the way I'm going to use text is short, simple sentences and paragraphs. Look at how there aren't even really paragraphs of text on the screen. I guess because it's mostly games, but it's engaging, interactive stuff. Look at the way they use color. I know this is about text, and look how playful the design is. You want to use simple vocabulary. You want to avoid terms that, kids in that age group wouldn't know yet. And you want to be playful with your typeface choice. And I say typeface because I watched a typography video. Typeface and font are not equal. The only reason that we call everything a font that's really a typeface is really because of Steve Jobs. But anyway, I digress. So just know that you can translate that to font if it bothers you. And then think about how we would use text in a design for adults, for professional adults. Well, Claude AI, I think, is a great example, and I'm actually obsessed with their UI. So I design websites. They're not perfect. They're not the best. But over the years, I've gotten a lot better at visual design, and I love their interface. I love how clean it is. It has kind of a warm, cozy feel because of the colors they use. Like, it's not just white. And I love the roundness. I don't like the jagged angles of some websites. But anyway, so with Claude, what do you notice? Text is concise, to the point. You're trying to get your message across. You're trying to respect that people are here to complete tasks, not to be flattered by verbose, flourishing language. Our language is going to be field specific where appropriate. We're adults. Let the adults talk, right? Typeface, something classic, something readable. The Georgia font, Calibri font. I don't know what font they use on Claude AI, but I love that font, whatever it is. And then think about the visual elements for kids, for young children. You want bright colors, primary colors. Look at this interface on the image. Look at these little toys surrounding the iPad. Look at the colors they're using. They make you want to engage. They look fun. They grab your attention. If children, they're not going to engage as much with just text. So you have to use those vibrant colors. Illustrations, they're going to be cartoonish. We're not going to probably use like minimalist design, monocolor icons, right? We're going to have fun, cartoonish, colorful illustrations for our icons. The overall vibe is playful, it's engaging. As opposed to the visual elements for professional adults trying to get stuff done, right? We need a clean, simple design. This link is to a neat article on geon theory, which I haven't seen people in very recent times. I haven't seen a lot written about this, but I think it's really, really cool. And it's basically this theory that there are kind of archetypes of shapes. That is, that very simple shapes our brains are used to recognizing very quickly. And so this goes into like minimalist design of icons. Let me see. Yeah. So you can see how taking these basic shapes, these geons, like a cone, like a rectangular prism, and cylinder, and this, I don't know, it looks like a bent cylinder. I don't know what you call this. You can create all these different objects. Stack a cone on top of a cylinder. Well, that looks like a lamp to me. Put the curly cylinder on top of another cylinder. Looks like a bucket. Put it this way, it looks like a mug. And so you can see that my recognition of these objects is based on these very, very simple shapes. And so the idea is that the simpler we make our visual representations based on simple shapes like this, the quicker our brains can identify those without expending much effort. So the overall vibe of this, it's organized, it's polished. It has ample white space. It feels productive, it feels clean. It's subdued. The color palettes are not screaming at me as much as like the PBS Kids website, right? We got the purple, orange, blue, pink, Clifford the Big Red Dog. That takes me back. Oh my God, and Arthur. Man, I have nostalgia right now. And I want to talk a little bit about infographics too. We're going to be talking more about these, but there are, again, some things that Susan Weinshank has to say about infographics. And she says a lot about websites, but when your target audience is primarily men don't like as much color. They just don't. Target audience is women. You can use more color, but you want to reduce the visual complexity. Don't have it as cluttered. Use less text. And then when your target audience is over the age of 45, that's when you need to also reduce visual complexity. If you think about the folks who are most familiar with visually complex digital things and navigating them, it's not that demographic, right? The younger demographics are going to be able to work with that better. And some of the other concerns around that is if you have a busy, cluttered interface, people's motor skills get worse over time. And so it may be harder to click the option I meant to click if there are many things around it that could cause me to misclick. So, and then when we're thinking about our message, there are these 4 C's. So the four C's are chunks, concrete, callbacks, and curiosity. So the first one, chunks, is about breaking information down into small, manageable chunks of information. This is why we break essays out into paragraphs. This is why we use colorful heading levels. If I'm thinking about my Word report design that I made you all suffer through to do the Word report, those nice blue headers made things stand out a little bit. If you want to try this, pick a number. So let me write a number on here. So what I'm going to do is write out a number. Whoops. Now, take a few seconds, look at this number and try to memorize it. Now I'm going to take it away and see if you can recall that number. Chances are you might be having difficulty recalling this number, but if I put some dashes between these digits, try pausing the video, seeing if you can say that number to yourself a few times, and seeing if you remember it now. So this is why phone numbers are represented the way they are. It's because we have to break things down into small chunks. So that's how we have to design. We need to make things concrete. With abstract concepts, we can use images to create associations. If I show a picture of a gavel while I'm talking about justice, it's easier for you to remember my points about justice. And that's the power that visuals offer us. And that's why infographics can be really powerful for telling data stories. And then we have callbacks. So this is a classic thing that teachers like to do. You know, I had a teacher who was really good at doing this, where we would come in and he would start asking us questions from the previous week. He would say, you know, in the last chapter, we talked about this. What does that mean? And then he would build off of that last chapter. And by pointing us back and referring us back to what we covered earlier, it was a lot easier to remember and to retain things from week to week because he was calling things back and forcing us to try to recall and remember the things that were said in the previous week, in the previous chapter. And then you want to spark people's curiosity. So you can do this by asking probing questions, posing intricate interesting questions, and then giving intriguing, counterintuitive answers. Sometimes can do this. So these things together can help make content memorable, and if it's memorable and represented well, then you can drive home your message effectively. So let's talk about infographics. I've thrown this word out a bit. Let's actually look at infographics. Let's get down to the what and the why. So infographics combine concise text. Keyword is concise. They're not supposed to be essays. They combine concise text and images into a cohesive design to present information quickly and clearly. Remember what I said earlier? This is a callback, by the way. Your audience's attention span, 7 to 10 minutes. 10 minutes is really the best you're going to get at one point in time. If you're in a live presentation, they can't pause your video and take a coffee break. So that's why infographics can be really helpful. A well-designed infographic communicates information visually, and it can enhance your understanding. It can drive your engagement. It can improve your retention of information. And by its nature, you can usually share it on various platforms. You can export an infographic to an image format like a PNG or a PDF. Well, PDF, not an image, but that's portable document file. Those are both widely shared formats. So if you're sharing an infographic on social media, you might want to design it more for like a mobile layout. So you don't want it to be really wide, but you can design it pretty long. And you could export to something like an image file like PNG, which stands for Portable Network Graphic. Very common format. Probably wouldn't export to a JPEG just because that's a larger file format, and it's not used as much for sharing in that sense. So let's continue on. So what are the steps that you would go through in creating an infographic? You're going to actually get hands-on experience creating an infographic in lab, so you'll have to go through these steps. And I guess choosing a color scheme and design are really, kind of sort of part of the same, but I just wanted to break this down for you. So first, you're going to research. You're going to apply the digital literacy skills that we covered, and you're going to look for relevant statistics on a topic. So you're going to dig, you're going to look for what's already out there, and then you're going to take those statistics and you're going to use those to create some sort of visual that's going to convey that knowledge that you want to share. So you choose a color scheme. Take your audience into account. Remember the color differences between adults who are trying to use something for productivity, right? You think of neutral colors, beige and gray and white, blue, light green. You don't want to use like red and bright purple and things like that. More subtle colors, right? Whereas for children, you want bright, intense colors, vibrant. You can use a lot of colors. So take that into account. And then it's design time. So again, think about your audience when you're doing that design. In your layout, is it very asymmetrical and designed for men? Because that might be a problem. Is your layout very busy and it's for older audiences? That's a problem. If your layout lacks color and it uses Georgia and Times New Roman font, and it has tiny little charts that are beige and pale green and pale brown and yellow, and you try to pass that off as content geared at younger children, that's a problem. So let's talk about digital portfolios. What is a digital portfolio? This is an online collection of your best work. You want to showcase your skills, your projects, and your accomplishments. And you really want to showcase your personality. You want to try to differentiate yourself, make yourself stand out, and make yourself memorable to those who you're really wanting to remember you, right? Maybe potential employers or clients, or you just want to connect with other people in your field, maybe all of those things. So there's no one size fits all with these because you're trying to capture that uniqueness. The goal is you're trying to showcase you. And if you have to mix images and videos and PDFs and infographics, whatever you have to do to capture that, then that's what you should do. So I'm going to show you my portfolio website. It's not the greatest, but it's a start. And my image is already pretty old, but that'll do. So this is my digital portfolio at the moment. So I have my background. This is still geared a little bit more toward user experience. I should probably update it now that I'm a professor and career path has changed a little bit, at least for the here and now. But this was my portfolio. Not even all that's accurate anymore. But you can see I've listed my background. I'm trying to tell them who I am, trying to show off my achievements a little bit, and tell them things about myself that are memorable. And that's what I'm trying to capture up here. I'm trying to do something that's brief, scannable, and a little bit playful, trying to make a good impression, trying to make something that someone will remember. And then I have my projects listed over here. These aren't, I threw this together pretty quickly, so I could do a lot more here with this, but I at least kind of tried. I put a nice, I took some images and I kind of shopped them into these like screens to make them look like different displays. And these are things that I've designed. This is a piece of software that I'm actually kind of working on. So yeah, so there are several considerations here, and that's what I'm going to talk about on this next slide. And that's that you want to pick out your best work and projects. So for me, that's like I kind of picked the most recent things, and really when I designed this, it was for trying to get a user experience job. And so now that I'm a professor, if I wanted to, apply for some kind of professorship, then I would probably want to try to change some of this and show educational things that I've designed, or educational research that I've done or something like that. But we want to show off the things that have the most relevance. So the recency, the level of skill that goes into it. We want to organize our content logically. So for me, that meant homepage. First, I need to make an impression. I need to grab attention and give someone something they'll remember, so that if they just land on my site for 10 seconds, maybe, hopefully, they'll at least remember my name, right? And then the organization from there on is trying to create a logical flow where they can get familiarized with me, so we feel like we're not strangers. And then they'll get more perspective into who I am when they're reading about my projects. Clear, concise descriptions. I try to capture this sometimes with my titles. So I try to make actionable short titles that you can get a sense about what the thing is or what the article's about just by looking at the title. So you can tell. You may not know what TAC admin is, but you know that it's about better user management. So you can imagine that this is some kind of user management system. You may not know what class manager is, but you know that it facilitates lesson delivery. So that's what I try to capture there. Attractive user-friendly layouts. So there's a balance there, and that's that you never want to veer so far from conventions that people are just like freaked out by your website and they just like give up on it. But you want to be fun with it. And so I've tried to capture both in that I've tried to make a layout that's compressed so it's easy to navigate, and you can expand if you want more, right? And this tabbed navigation was designed so you don't actually have to wait long on the page to reload. Because if I'm a busy employer and I'm checking across different portfolio sites, I want to be able to very quickly jump around. And maybe clicking out one more link is just a turn off, and I say, I'll go on and look at the next one. So that was my audience in mind there. Regularly update your portfolio. I'm a bad example of this. Really need to update it, but you want to do that. So how do you organize your digital content? So like I said, group projects by order of importance, category, or skill. Use high quality images and videos. You're trying to put your best foot forward, so you need to have your best digital version of yourself out there. You want the most professional stuff that you have to offer. And provide context. This is where that storytelling comes in. And this is why I start by giving a little bit about my story, because I don't want to be a stranger to whoever lands on my website. So provide a brief bio and ensure that this is scannable. Think about how many portfolios that employers have to look through, or even colleagues that are trying to network with each other, right? So make sure it's scannable. Make it easy for people to know who you are, what you're about, and to have a sense of confidence in what you do. And make sure they know how to get in touch with you. Make it easy for them. So I always complain when I go on websites that, oh my God, they make it too hard for me to give them my money. They should make it easy to take my money. And I'll give up on certain websites where I'm about to make a purchase and I see, okay, they only accept credit card. I don't like using credit card. I was going to use PayPal. Forget it. Never mind. Same thing with contact. If I have to hunt for how to get in touch with you, I'm going to say, yeah, it's probably not worth it. If this person wasn't thoughtful enough to do that for me, I don't think they're the type of person I want to work with. So some tools that you can use to create your own digital portfolio. So I'm a web designer and I'm a programmer. So this website runs entirely on my own system that I made myself. But you don't have to do that. There's WordPress, Wix. Weebly is maybe out of vogue now, but I used to use Weebly back in the day, like especially when I was in middle school and I was interested in web design. I remember using Weebly and playing around and trying to hack the HTML and customize it. But these are all so WordPress is very versatile. You can customize it quite a bit. There are lots of plugins. You go down a whole rabbit hole of YouTube videos and spend your whole life just perfecting the art of WordPress. I don't care to do that. But things like Wix, really, really easy, very drag and drop style interface, very quick to learn. Kind of reminds me of Canva. Canva's very drag and drop oriented. So if you can use one, you can pretty much use the other. You can create a website in 2 hours or less. Behance is something that I've read that a lot of creative professionals are using. And looking on it, it looks like it is geared toward creative people. They have very aesthetic profiles, and they really try to curate their image that they're putting out there. GitHub Pages is good for developers. So shout out to you computing people. Definitely, if you haven't gone on GitHub yet, go on GitHub. Start showing some of your work. Start working on things and putting it out there. I have messy, ugly code on GitHub. I always have, and it's always been points of conversation that I've been able to have in interviews for developer positions or designer positions, where I've been able to talk about some of the projects that I've created, maybe even had someone collaborate on with me, how that learning process went, what it was like. And by them going out and seeing all these things I've been working on, they don't have to be perfect, but they show that I'm passionate, that I care, that I'm interested in learning and trying new things and growing. And so that's my advice to all of you, no matter what your major is you can create a digital portfolio and just start putting your work out there. Don't demand perfection from yourself, because you'll never have that digital portfolio. It's never going to be in exactly the state you want. So start putting stuff out there and showing people who you are and what you're passionate about. They'll be able to see your growth over time. They'll be able to see your skills developing. And then there's Adobe Portfolio. And LinkedIn is kind of a quasi digital portfolio. It's not as customizable as these things, but you can absolutely create, there's a project section in LinkedIn where you can write about your projects. You can write about your background. It's definitely much more professional oriented, of course, but you can absolutely use LinkedIn to start to build up a portfolio. So at this time, I'm now going to show you.